Hey, good afternoon. Hey, today I started to do resize and prime some 6.5 Grendel brass today, and I got started on it already. And I thought, well, what the heck? I'm gonna go ahead and video this just for the fun of it, see how it turns out. I'm not a very good videographer, as you may find out later. But anyway, we're giving it a try today. What's going on is I've got 51 pieces of 6.5 Grendel brass, and like I said, I've already got about half of them uh, ready to go into the press. And what I'm using for lubrication is some Redding Imperial Sizing dye wax. This is very simple to use, and it's pretty quick too, because you just put it on with your fingers as you go, or you can do like I'm doing here, is get them all waxed and ready to go into the sizing dye before you get started. That way you don't have your fingers all greasy and messed up while you're trying to use the press. So it works out easier that way for me. So we're going to continue on here and get a little bit of wax on my fingers here and just kind of turn it around in there and get it wiped down. Like I say, you don't need a whole bunch of it. And every once in a while, you can take a little bit, put it right inside the case mouth there, so just so you're sizing your sizing ball, the ball doesn't get stuck inside. And as you can look, see, I'm just using just a very little bit on my fingers. I'm just barely got a little bit of an oily feeling on my fingers here, just enough so I can get a little bit of wax on there. We don't want to get any stuck cases. That would be a real pain in the backside. I'm trying not to get it all over this hand too as we go, because I don't need it all over both. I just got a little bit on my index finger and my thumb here, and just kind of turning it as we go, trying to keep my left hand from getting greasy so I can hold on to the case and not drop it on the floor. I've done that a few times. And about every fifth or sixth one, you can get a little bit right there on the top of the case mouth, so when the expander ball goes in and pulls back out, it won't tend to get stuck if it's got a little bit of lube in there. You don't need a whole bunch, just a little bit. You start resizing these. You definitely want to make sure that the inside of your die is clean. The expander ball doesn't have a bunch of gunk on it or anything like that. So we don't want to be carrying anything from the last time we used the die over to their fresh ones. You want to get enough lube on there just to kind of make it slick. You don't want to get too much on there, because you can get what's called oil canning right here around that shoulder, get dents, or you can even dent the case here if you get way too much on there. So you don't really need a whole bunch. Just get it enough there to make it kind of slippery, and you're good to go. That's 50, and here's number 51. So had an oddball because I bought 150 pieces. I got an extra piece in the bag, so we're going to use it. All right, so put the lid back on my sizing die wax and set that aside before doing anything else, and get that lube off my fingers. I'm going to be spreading that all over the press handle and making it a slippery mess. So, alright, well, before we go anywhere, we need to set up the die. And I've got it pretty much already done, I believe, from the last time I used it. What we're doing is run the die down and bring the ram up and adjust the die down until we get good contact. Doesn't have to be super hard. You don't need any real big cam over or anything at the bottom. It just needs to come up good and tight. These are brand new cases, so they're not going to need a whole bunch of resizing anyway. It's just I just want to run them through there pretty much just to make sure that the case mouths are nice and round, and just to, you know, kind of make sure that there's none that are out of shape or anything like that that may have been damaged through shipping or whatnot. So this should go pretty quick. Little C-frame lead press doesn't have a lot of room in it, so once in a while it kind of catches my finger behind there and gets stuck a little bit and gives me a little trouble getting the case back out of the shell holder. All in all, it's a pretty nice little press, though. For the cost of it, you can't beat it. I mean, it's so much better than one of those hand presses that you have to use both hands to squeeze together. And I mean, if that's what you got to carry along with you, if you go take it to the shooting range and you're trying out a new load and you shoot a few and decide, well, that's a good load, and you want to, fire yourself up a few more right then and there, well, you use your little hand press to squeeze out a few more. But for here on the bench, I don't think for the money you can really beat the little Lee C press for your small stuff like I'm doing here. Just resizing some new cases or using the Ram Prime. It's a pretty cool little press. Some of this I'll probably edit out here. I won't make you sit here and watch the whole thing. You probably already fast forwarded, but anyway, in case you haven't, and you're still here, this last part I'll probably just go ahead and edit out until we get ready to start the Ram prime set up. All right, so in the last segment of the video, you saw me take this rag right here, and I was starting to clean the cases. What I did was got a little bit of 91% rubbing alcohol and just put just enough on there just to get it barely damp, just to help me get that sizing die wax off the cases here. And I took some Q-tips and run around in the primer pocket and down in the case mouths, make sure there's no sizing lube on any of this stuff on either end. And I'm sure somebody, as soon as I'm saying that, is going to say, oh, you shouldn't put alcohol in the primer pocket or in the case mouth or any of that. Well, I assure you, they're nice and dry. They've been sitting here for about an hour, so they're very dry. There's no alcohol, so everything's good. Anyway, we're going to start priming, so what I need to do is get some primers. And what I'm going to use is I've got some CCI 400 small rifle primers for the 6.5 Grendel. And that's not the only primer you can use for this. There are quite a few, several small rifle primers. I happen to be I'm going to use these in an AR, so you know, CCI 400s, they'll work fine. It shouldn't be any problems, any dangers about using a different primer besides the CCI 400s or 41s. Pardon me. Lots of people like to use the 41s and the ARs because the primer cup's a little thicker, a little harder, and for semi-autos with floating firing pins, that's what's usually recommended, is a little bit harder cup. But I've never had any problem with the 400s, and that's what was available, so that's what I'm going to use today. This out of the way here, and I'm going to take this piece of paper here, if I can get it out from under without knocking everything down, and I'm going to take out 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 right here, and I'm going to put them right on this piece of paper. Put this piece of paper upside down on the primers, turn them like that, and let them down, and I've got 50 primers cup side down. There's a couple didn't quite make it right, but that's okay. I got them. All right. I actually need one more, but I'll get that little guy out of there later once I've used these up. Okay. So I've got my cases here, got the primers there, so I'll take these guys, and as I put the primers in, I'm going to be transferring them from this case over, or this tray over to this tray. You can't even see that, can you? Well, trust me, there's 51 cases right here. I've got another tray, so as I'm priming these cases, I'll move them over to here so I know which ones I've done without having to take too many looks at them. So first goes in the primer into the Ram Prime system. Do a case up here on top. I'm going to work that up and be gentle as it goes up. Make sure it starts right. And press steadily down, but not too hard. When you get to the bottom, you'll feel it when it gets to the bottom. And you want to feel that right there. Make sure it's just below the bottom of the base of the case head. If it's out too far or if it's in too far, out too far is bad. In too far is bad, because if you got it in too far, you may have light primer strike, and the cartridge won't fire. If it's out too far, it may not fire. It may get you may have a dead. You may get a primer may blow out once the cartridge is ignited. You know, things could be wrong if it's not just right. So make sure you got the primer seated in, and it should be just below the case head. Ram Prime system, and it's really easy to do once you get the hang of it. I know when I first started using it, I was a little bit fiddly because it's, you know, you have to get the feel of it first, and you know, get to know what you're doing, how hard to press, and it's not much. Once you get used to it, you'll get to where you feel that when it hits hits the bottom, and almost every time now, I get it right in there without having any problems. Ugh. My fingers are a little fiddly today for some reason. You know, the ram prime is not as fast as a hand primer, or maybe if you have a press, an on prime auto feed, but it works very good. You can't beat the price. I mean, if you're just starting out, kind of like me, you know, you don't want to spend a whole bunch of money. And the ram prime system in this little press here costs you less than $70. Yeah, the little ram prime doesn't take a lot of force to put the primer up in there. Not even the large primers. I mean, it's just start it up in there. Make sure you got it started into the primer pocket, and just go gently up in there, and you can feel it touch the bottom. I mean, you almost never get, especially new cases. I mean, when you got a new case and the primer pocket's real clean and everything, you start it up in there, it'll slide right in, and when it touches bottom, when it's through, it'll stop, and you'll feel it stop, and almost every single time it'll be right there where you want it. If it's not, well, then you probably need to pull that, pop that one out and put it in the garbage, and either put a new primer in or check your case. You may have a bad case. One thing you really don't want to do is crank down on it so hard that you crush your primer, because you can do that with this. You can. I mean, there's really not anything to stop it from going so far that you could crush that primer, and that would be bad, because then there's a possibility that primer could go off, and you don't want that. Another thing, you don't want to be putting your face right up on top of there and looking, because if one would happen to go off and it shot off in your face, I'm sure you wouldn't like that either. Well, I kind of keep my face and everything away from the press when I'm doing this. Take my hand away from where the priming action is going on there. I mean, the point I guess I'm making is you just want to be careful when you're doing this. You don't want to, be careless at any time. Wear your safety glasses too. I'm wearing glasses. That's 50. I really need one more. You know what? I think I'm just going to leave that one for the next time. I'll put that over there in the pile and save that one for another day. That way I don't have to crack out an odd number of primers out of my 100 round pill box there. And then back over there. And that's pretty much it. Got 50 pieces ready to fill with powder and bullet. See you next time.